Right, evening everybody. I'm trying something slightly different tonight. You might be able to see this. It's not a radio mic. I'm not as fancy as Maltman Mike with his brand new iPad that does high res and a radio mic and all this lot. But it is actually like a clip-on mic that's wired in. But I normally attach it to a little tripod that kind of sits down here. But I'm going to see whether this works. Just to make it a little bit, hopefully the volume will be a little bit better for you. But my fear is that the wire itself moving around might bang into it, might affect it. You might get rustling of the shirt. So I'm going to try it for these two, then have a listen, see how it goes. So in advance, I apologise if there is any kind of rustling or something gets really loud or anything like that. So 2 drams tonight. I have had it's Friday, 7th of September. If I haven't said that already, I've had an absolutely shocking week. One of the worst weeks, working weeks of my life. It's just everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. It's been an absolute nightmare of a week. It's been utterly rubbish. So I am extremely glad it's Friday anyway. But also tomorrow, I will be helping the Whisky Lounge out at the York Whisky Festival at York Racecourse. So it's entirely possible, if I have Wi-Fi, and I upload this in the morning but delay it a little bit, that if you're watching this not long after it's uploaded, I will still be at York Racecourse, hopefully having the time of my life and hopefully persuading lots of people to donate to my charity, and possibly getting them to come home maybe a little bit worse for wear and watching this very review. So if I did see you today, it was an absolute pleasure. I hope you had fun. So 2 whiskies tonight, one of which I've managed to get some information about, the other of which I've got none. So the one that I'm going to do first, fortunately, I have information about, and this was actually donated to me from, I think Megan, her name was, lovely person at Interbev, the Interbev group, who are also known as Inverhouse Distillers. I don't even know how she'd found out about the challenge, because this was quite early on. I think I was at about dram 40, 50, something like that, fairly early on in the challenge, and she sent me an email to say, look, you know, I found out about your challenge, we'd love to help out. So she sent me some samples of what are the other ones I've got? The Speyburn. I'd already done Old Pulteney by that point. What was the other one she sent me? It wasn't Balmenoch. Balblair she sent, and something else, I can't remember. And also this, which is Hankey Bannister. So Hankey Bannister is named after 2 gentlemen, Beaumont Hankey and Hugh Bannister. And in London's West End, they set up a wines and spirits company in 1757. So this has been going on for quite a while, targeting mainly the sort of the rich and well-to-do in London. So it was very high quality. From what I've read, particularly on the Hankey Bannister website, which is pretty good, is Hankey was quite outgoing, was quite flamboyant, whereas Bannister was a lot more of a kind of serious businessman, but the two of them worked very well together. So they set up in 1757. In 1785, they moved to Adelphi Arches in London, and were there until 1936 in one form or another as a shop, with also wine cellars as well. But in 1936, the Arches were demolished, and they actually moved, and they had to transport all the bottles in their stock and in their cellars across the Thames to a new location not too far away from Shakespeare's Globe Theatre. So unfortunately then, 4 years later, during the Second World War, it got bombed. So they didn't really have much luck during that time period. Now, it ultimately was bought by Inverhouse in 1988, and they still own it now. Now, if you read the Wikipedia page, they tell you that the blend is made up of just the 5 single malts that Inverhouse do. So that's Pulteney, Balblair, Balmenoch, Speyburn, and Knockdo. So there's the 5 of them there. I'd be surprised if it is just those 5. I wouldn't be surprised if it is others. Now, one of the website itself does talk about Highland malts, including those 5, but it does say just Highland malts. So where the other ones are from, we're obviously not, you know, discounting Lowland and Speyside and any islands. Although it does say that the grain is from the Lowlands, so it's entirely possible that it's from Girvan. Because that is the biggest sort of lowland one. It could be somewhere else. I can't remember what the other grain distilleries are in Lowland. So it's Friday, I'm tired, I've had a crappy week, so just, yeah, You go find out. I can't be asked to do the work. No, that's not fair. I should really have done the work beforehand. So, in 1936, Hankey Bannister were looking to break into the US market, or at least expand upon the US market that they'd already got. So they asked a illustrator by the name of Ted Giesel to design a character for them. Now, you might not recognize the name Ted Giesel unless you are American, but you probably recognize the name Dr. Seuss. And he came up with a character called the Hankey Bird that looks like this. Now, this is, I've actually found some description from this. He was interviewed for a magazine called Sales Magazine in 1939, and this apparently is his quote. "There's no sense to it. The bird on the bottle is a replica of an actual bird developed after years of painstaking crossbreeding in the Seuss laboratories for a lofty purpose, namely to produce a carrier pigeon for the Scottish Army, a bird so distinctive that it would not be mistaken for a grouse and shot down by nearsighted American millionaires. After 15 generations of wearing kilts, the Hankey bird has developed sideburns, but most unfortunately his mating call is characterised by a distinct burr. Our only purpose in leasing him to Hankey Bannister is to finance further scientific to deburr that mating call, not, I assure you, to aid in the crass business of selling whisky." Nonsense, madness, absolutely madness. And apparently the Hankey bird was actually almost like a little model that via a small spring would sort of stand on the neck of the bottle and sort of almost as though it was drinking out. Weird stuff, absolutely weird stuff. Very, very strange marketing. So, to be fair, the malts that are in it are pretty good on that list. You know, Pulteney, one of my favourites. Balblair was fantastic. Speyburn I've not got to yet. Balmenic is still on the list. Annock I was impressed with. So, you know, the malts in it, even if it is just those 5, is you know, it's a good set of malts. So my hopes are up for this. You're looking at about, I didn't actually check the price. Bear with me 2 seconds while I pour this and then do a quick check of the price, because very foolishly of me, I didn't actually check how much it was going to be for buying a bottle. Now, I can remember selling this in the whisky shop, and I think we were selling it for about 15 quid. So I'm guessing about 18. Right, the Whisky Exchange, Hankey Bannister Original, £18.45. Master of Malt are selling it for £18.34. So yes, £18.34. Oh, the other thing I forgot to mention was Matt Stone and Trey Parker, the 2 guys that created South Park. Mr. Hankey, the Christmas poo, is actually named after this because they're quite big whiskey drinkers, and this is one of their favourites. It's not true. It's not. It'd be bloody good if it was, and it might well be. I have literally just made that up. But if it was true, then that would be a bloody good guess. So, the whiskey itself, after that utter nonsense. Quite full on the nose. There's a bit of a honeyed character, but there's also like an intense, it's quite spicy. Almost like a chili powder feel to it. Yeah, there's a definite dry chili powder, as well as a bit of a maltiness and a bit of a honey character, but it's the chili powder's kind of overriding it. It's quite hot on the nose, it really is. It's a lot pricklier than I was expecting it to be. There's a bit of saltiness in there as well. Interesting. Not what I was expecting. And there's actually a bit of heat as well. There is a slight element. It's not as intense as it is on the nose, but there is a definite chili powder feel to it. But it's not particularly hot chili powder. It turns into more of a more gentle paprika. There is a slight honey note, and that maltiness is there. Definite, oh yes, proper Horlicks Ovaltine maltiness coming through now. It's 40%. Yes, it is 40%. But it's very smooth, and there's not a huge grainy character to it. I don't know what the percentage of malts to grain is. I'm willing to bet probably, I mean, grouse was about 35%, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's about that, maybe kind of like 2/3 grain, 1/3 malt. but it doesn't really have the harshness of a grain whiskey, the edginess of a grain whiskey kind of kicking through. It's got a nice maltiness to it, and the finish actually is not too bad. This soft chili powder feel though is unusual. It's quite distinctive. Bit dry as well, a little bit dry on the palate, but it's not quite a woodiness. It is more of a chilliness, but it's not hot chili. Like I say, it's like a mild paprika that you would get in a supermarket that you'd add to a dish when you want to make a chili, but you don't want it particularly hot because you're giving it to the kids or something like that. So you don't want any spicy heat in it, but you want a bit of that flavour in there. It's interesting. It's a dry whiskey. It's unusual, very unusual. I'll be honest, I can't see this being to everybody's taste, because the dryness I think would put some people off. I think it would feel too woody for some people, but it's actually it's interesting. I'm liking this. I do like this as a whiskey. It needs a bit of work drinking it. It's one that you've got to not fight, but you've got to be aware you're drinking it, and sort of, if you almost as if you weren't paying attention, you go, oh god, that's not quite good. But if you go with it, it's a good whiskey. It's interesting, but if you prefer your smoother style of blended whiskey, it's not really that line. This dryness that's there, this very soft paprika, dry chili feel as well is unusual, but very distinctive and pleasant if you like that type of whiskey. Right, I'm going to do a quick rinse out, and I'm going to do a quick see if I can find any more information about the next one, and then we shall crack on. So I shall see you at the next one. Cheers.